William, you get to go first, buddy. All right, so first agent today, William Coalson. William's going to give you a take on a lot of different real estate stuff. What I know about William, I do wish I knew more. I know William has been, I know he's been with a couple of brokerages. I know that he found success at each brokerage that he was at. I just confirmed that he's got his first child on the way. Somewhat recently married, not just yesterday, but not 20 years ago either. I think when it comes to this next generation of realtor, I think William kind of represents a good prototype of some good habits to follow. But I'm excited to hear more about William, like I'm sure you guys are today. So kind of what we want to do is, William, where are you from? Where did you go to school? A little bit about your family, any other jobs you've had, and then why did you get into real estate? We can talk a little bit about your office and your team and stuff like that, and then just kind of wrap that up with why you think hometown is the place for you.
So I'm born and raised in Mechanicsville, Virginia. Haven't gone far my whole life. I first was introduced to hometown realty when I did an internship in college. I went to college at Randolph-Macon in Ashland. And after doing that internship, I knew I wanted to do real estate. And it's all I've done since I graduated in 2015.
What office do you work out of, William? Are you on a team right now? Anything like that?
Yeah, I'm on the home team with Tommy Sabiga. I'm out of the Oaklawn office.
What do you, if you had to kind of throw something out there that you like about being on a team, what's one aspect that you enjoy over there, man? I mean, I know Sabiga, I know really organized, tech savvy, great with relationships. What what aspects do you enjoy over there?
So to tell you a little bit about my background, I started my first year at Hometown Realty, and the agent I was working with started his own brokerage. So I left for 1 year and was basically on my own that year, not doing too great. And then I came back to Hometown after being gone for a year. So I have been at Hometown ever since. What's great about it being on a team is you have to wear a lot of hats in this business, and it's already hard enough to master being great at the sales, and having a lot of the other hats, marketing and transaction coordinating and all the other million things that can distract you from just being great at sales. It's very helpful to be on a team and take a lot of that off your plate.
That makes sense. It's cool to have somebody on that has the contrast of like, hey, look, I can tell you what it's like to roll solo. I can tell you what it's like to be on the right team at the same time. The other thing that kind of jumps out, I don't know if it was, I think it might have been Henry Ford. Everybody was thinking that Henry Ford was like a genius. He's like, seemed to create businesses that only were successful, and he was a pioneer in the game. But Henry Ford was like, look, man, like I know a lot about just a couple of things. The rest of it, I have the best people in the world for it. And whenever I need to push those buttons, all I need to do is push those buttons. So sometimes being on the right team can feel that way. It sounds like it's been that way for you. What's one thing you try to do every day, William, to be successful as a real estate business owner?
Well, of course, make phone calls every single day. Something that has been very helpful for me over the past year that I started doing is tracking the number of conversations I have and then the number of appointments that I set. There's a subscription on the Tom Ferry website that's $80 per month, and you get access to all their tracking software that lays it out really easy for you. And I just track it while I'm on the phone.
I like that
that subscription already also comes with videos and all the Tom Ferry videos and resources. So I've been doing that, and that helps a lot because you can get caught up during the day thinking that you're getting a lot done, but then you didn't actually have very many conversations. So it's been really good staying on track and knowing if I actually had a productive day or not.
I love that. I'm glad you finished with the word productive, because the thing that came to mind as you were talking, William, was, hey, I can leave 30 voicemails in a day and feel like I really had some good activity. But if I'm tracking conversations, what I'm really doing there is I'm tracking my productivity and not living in fantasy land. I think that's strong advice. And then you said you also track appointments, so conversations and appointments.
Yep. And then it makes it easier to plan out my year and what I need to do, because I can look back at last year, see what my conversations to appointments ratio was, and if I'm converting well once I go on appointments. It's been really, really helpful for me.
Love that you track it so that you can refer back to it as time goes on, especially with the seasonality of real estate. Sometimes I think sometimes you need to know that you're in the proper season and instead of trying to act as if we're in a different season, that ratio. I like that a lot, man. That's strong. Okay. So what's one lesson that you've learned in or from real estate, but you've learned it, what you consider the hard way?
So I would say the way that I approach sales and approach meeting with clients. So people don't want to be told what to do. They want to come to their own conclusions, and they want to feel like they're making the decisions. And people tend to get repelled. They think you're trying to tell them what to do or really sell them hard on you. And I heard on a podcast a little while back a good analogy. What do you do when your dog runs out the front door and you're trying to get them back? You don't run at them, because if you run at the dog, they're going to run away from you. So you have to entice the dog to come to you instead. And I do that by asking questions. I make very few statements when I'm on a listing appointment or a buyer appointment, and it's more questions, letting them discover it for themselves. And that's been a game changer for me.
That's solid advice, William. I wrote a couple things down, right? Like, people don't want to be told what to do. My almost 6 and 9-year-old sons don't want to be told what to do. So maybe coaching and guidance, whether we're talking about an almost 6-year-old or a fully grown client, maybe we all want the same things, I love that you said you make very few statements, like you dictate very little, but you ask a lot of questions. That in itself, I think for anybody that watches this now or later, is really strong advice. A person can be or try to be a hero in a real estate transaction, or they can be a guide. And if you think about most movies, the hero might be the headliner, but the hero is always in peril. There's always a problem. And then that third party guide seems to come, make sense of everything, and kind of bring us to that happy ending. So don't be the hero, be the guide, like William. That's good stuff, brother. What's to contrast it a little bit here, hopefully, what's the funniest or craziest thing that's ever happened to you in real estate?
I went on a listing appointment last year, and the seller was walking slow because he injured his ribs. So of course I asked him, what happened? How'd you injure your ribs? And he said he fell off his roof when he was filming UFOs. And it's a 2-story roof. I don't even know how he got on the roof. And then he said he got the UFOs on video. He showed me the video, and I was trying not to laugh while I'm sitting there at the listing appointment. And on the video, you could hear him falling off the roof and hear the thud when he hit the ground. So I'm not sure if he was on drugs or what, but still got the listing, so you just got to roll with it.
Hey, baby, that's all that matters.
You never know.
Right?
but
he wants
he's
to,
bought into UFOs in Ashland.
wow. It references what you said before. Like, hey, bro, if looking at UFOs on your roof is like your thing, that's not my thing. But rock and roll. I'm still here to sell your house. Next time, maybe try not to fall off the roof. I don't know. I'd say that's crazy though, brother. All right, so wrapping it up, man. How many hours? Think about your full-time agent, right? Like it's hard to justify what a part-time agent really is. But if you're a full-time agent, or you've got one that's listening to you right now, how many hours do you think that a full-time agent should put in weekly? And then what are the 3 best things that you think they could do daily?
I think to get enough momentum in this business, you really do need to be full-time. You need to be putting in 40 hours a week to get momentum going and start seeing some success and get the wheel moving. Depending on how much you want to sell, you're going to have to work more than that. But I think 40 hours a week at least in this business to really get some traction going. The 3 best things an agent can do is make phone calls, go on appointments, and put deals together. Try to keep it simple. The more complicated you make it, the easier it is to get distracted or off track. Just try to keep it simple.
I love that. Keep it simple, man. So I wrote down full-time agent, 40 hours a week, but that can be done as a way to create momentum. And maybe depending on what your goals are, you scale that back. Maybe you realize, hey, like I love everything about real estate. You ramp that up because it gives you the juice. I like that you said, though, that you can do it to create momentum, and ultimately it depends on your goals. And there's no debating that A plus activity in our business is calls, setting appointments, and putting deals together. There's a lot of other fluff and noise, a lot of attractive stuff out there, but without those 3 things, I don't think we have a real estate business. So solid work, William, man. I appreciate, I'm grateful to learn about you today. But above all, man, I appreciate you putting a little time to the side to spend with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before I to move on to Miss Ashley Oakley here, do you have any kind of parting words for anybody that is listening now or that might watch it later?
If you have any questions, happy to help. Feel free to reach out. Nothing else comes to mind.
You're a good man.
Just keep it as simple as possible. That's what's been big for me. The more you're thinking, you can just get in your own head. You just got to keep it simple and focus on the things that need to get done.
No doubt. Sometimes probably better to talk to yourself than listen to yourself, even though both of those things might make you look a little weird out there.
Yeah. All
right, Ashley. Same thing here. You're for a long time had been a power player at the company. I always think of you as like the silent killer because I don't think that you, I hope I'm saying this the right way. I don't think that you broadcast your business unnecessarily. And so people out there may not necessarily know the volume that you pump, the deals that you close, the people that you help, because you're not standing on top of a mountain asking everybody to look at you for it. That's one of the things I've always admired about you from the jump is that somehow you've been among the peak producers, but I didn't ever really know about it until we had awards day, So for you, where are you from? Where'd you go to school? A little bit about the family. I know you're a big family oriented lady. Any other jobs you've had? Why you got into this crazy business? And then the generics, like what office you work out of, why you chose hometown, all that good stuff.
So I grew up in Prince George, and that's where I'm from. That's where I pretty much live most of the time now. I went to Sweetbriar College, graduated in 2005. And basically my story is I graduated with my Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry. My parents gave me 3 months to find a job, and I'd gotten my real estate license the December before I graduated over Christmas break. Well, I kept applying to all these different jobs, couldn't find a job. Nobody was hiring in my industry, which is shocking because there's a chemical plant in Hopewell, there's one in Chester, there's one in Petersburg, but evidently nobody was hiring. So I said, okay, I'm just gonna start selling real estate. This is I gotta figure something out. So long story short, the first person I sold a house to was the head chemist at BI Chemical, because she was the lady who answered the phone every 3 days when I called to see if they had reviewed my resume. And she said, when I saw your name, she said, I knew you had to be the same person. And I knew you were persistent, and that's exactly what I was looking for. And so since then, I've probably helped her buy and sell, but probably 25 houses.
Yeah, I love that.
And so so she sold one house and bought one that day. And then when BI went under about, I guess, 10 years ago, she kept getting these large severance packages. Like, if you stay on for another 30 days, we'll give you $50,000. So every time she got that, sorry, my dogs are barking. Every time she got those large sums of money, she'd invest in real estate. And then when when they terminated her job, she's super handy. So she and her kids every summer would rehab 2 or 3 houses, and then we put them back on the market.
I love that.
So anyways, back to the question. Sorry, that was a long-winded response. So I started in real estate in like the summer of 2005. I've had a couple other jobs just like through college. I was like an RA, and I worked at a couple jewelry stores during Christmas. I worked at my parents' family business when I was in high school. I substitute taught when I got 20 credit hours. I've had a lot of like little odd and end kind of temporary jobs. I work out of the Prince George office. Most people don't even know we have an office down there because it's like myself and 2 others. But we do have an office, and we do have a really good presence down there. And then I guess that's really, I'm growing my own team. Currently, I have 3 people on it. All of them, well, 2 of them have full-time jobs that they're trying to transition out of their full-time job into real estate full-time.
Who's on your team right now, Ashley?
Dwayne Tharp and Nancy Puce and Leslie Smith.
We had Dwayne on a couple of weeks ago. I was thoroughly impressed with like his work ethic. That guy, like the one thing I took away from him was he takes the business seriously. He seems fun.
Yes.
But he's like, hey, I ain't scared of these hours. I'm not.
No, and he's not. And I mean, last night he sent me a text at 10:10. We need to talk. And I was like, okay, what are we talking about at 10:10? So, oh, sorry. I have my dogs and they're drinking.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Ashley, what's one thing you try to do every day to be successful as a real estate business owner?
So I think the main thing I try to do every day is remind at least 5 people what I do for a living. I try to drop my card off at 3 or 4 different places, whether it be like a regular place I go to eat, my dry cleaners. I try to write, 5 notes a day to past clients or even friends and family, just to remind them what I do. Even if I don't even mention real estate, I'll slip a card in there. Hey, I see you got married and I'm so happy for you. Here's a gift card and my business card. Or, if they lost somebody, I try to send them a condolence card. I mean, that's one of the things, like, I don't post a lot on Facebook, but I do creep on people's lives to see what's going on and make sure that they know, hey, this lady cares about me. So when they are ready to sell, they know who's been kind of tracking their life milestones.
Who cares about them more than just a paycheck when it looks like there's a paycheck to be had? That's strong. I like that you said too, Ashley, that that your lead gen or whatever you want to call it it's catered around reminding, right? Like you already created a reputation, but people forget. It's not their job to remember that this guy's a neurosurgeon and that this lady sells real estate. They're out there living their lives, but those like gentle reminders, especially as a tag on to like a gesture for a life event. I mean, I think that's a really subtle way to continue building good business. I too stalk people on social media. The reason I do it is because I think it's a lot easier to find something out about them on social media versus calling and verifying that thing happened to them. Like somebody lost their dog. I'm not calling them to ask them if their dog died. But if I see that it happened on Facebook, of course I want to, try to send them a book or send them a card or something like that. Good stuff. What's one lesson that you've learned in real estate the hard way?
I've learned this one a couple times. So I am an open book. Like if you called me tomorrow and you needed help and you were, even if you're like, I had a lady call me yesterday and she's like, I know like we work against each other in the same market, but I felt like I could call you and talk to you about how I want to get into new construction. And I don't look at it as competition. I look at it as making her better. I mean, if she steals my people from me, then shame on me. But so I will probably over inform people. So I've had a bunch of people who wanted to subdivide property. So they came in, sat down with me. I basically gave them the whole spiel. Here's what I'm going to do. And here's how I'm going to take care of you. And here's basically the process. And then I look like a month later and they've subdivided their property and listed it with somebody else. And I'm like, I just wasted like 2 weeks of my time and put you in touch with all the people. And here you are giving your lots to somebody else. How's this really? So my biggest thing would be get them under contract, whether you're going to tell them, exactly how to do something or point them in the right direction.
Sure. It's so like, I think as we're building businesses and trying to get deals, which is always a challenge, especially like right now, we forget how emotional, and I don't mean uneducated in like the general sense of life, but when it comes to our industry, how uneducated they are.
Yes.
And then when they get that information, sometimes what their emotions make them think they can do with it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with serving and then asking for a little loyalty in return. And it sounds like that's what you're saying. Like, hey, look, I love helping people. It fills me up. I would like the opportunity to represent them if I do help them, though, in lieu of helping everyone to work with another agent. I also love that you said, if my clients end up working with somebody else, then shame on me. Maybe somebody that wasn't as professional as you would think like, well, why isn't anybody staying with me? Why is everybody, working with somebody else in lieu of maybe that self-accountability? So that's strong. So to try to contrast that and soften it up a little bit, what's the funniest or craziest thing that's happened to you so far?
I've had some really good ones. But I think the craziest thing that's ever happened to me, I had been in the business like 2 or 3 years, showing houses in Petersburg. And I guess you don't really realize at that time, that was before showing time and all that, you had to actually call the agent, say, hey, can I show the property? And they'd call you back and say, yes, you can show the property at this time. Well, I get my confirmation. I go in the house. I'm showing my people around and I open the bedroom door and there is a man laying in there in the bed asleep. And he sat straight up. I could not close the door quick enough. I called the owner. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We had an appointment. And he goes, she didn't tell me you had an appointment. And I'm backing up. I'm trying to get my clients out. I'm mortified. He had like no clothes on. He sits straight up in the bed and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm trying to get out of there. Lucky we didn't get killed in the middle of a showing, but that's my craziest story.
Well, and in good old Petersburg of all places, that's my stomping ground. That is not where you want to walk into a random home and find someone sleeping in a bed or not sleeping in a bed.
And then my clients are looking at me like, you just brought us in the house and you didn't have an appointment. And I'm like, I did. Like, I did call her. She did confirm. So it puts you in a bad spot and it's mortifying at the same time.
No doubt. And like thinking about you, you're like, hey guys, I promise that I didn't wake up this morning and say, I'm going to show these people a house that's got a naked dude in the bed. You know what I mean? They're going to like that one. That's going to be the one for them,
Yeah.
I love it. That has been slowly becoming my favorite question in all of this each week, because there is a variety of stuff that has happened to people in real estate.
My second craziest story is I had a client, they had a house in Cedar Creek in Prince George. And at the time, the market was crazy. It was like before everything happened in 2008. And I was showing it myself again. And evidently his teenage daughter and her boyfriend had skipped school. And that's how I'm showing. They've confirmed the showing. I go in and I see people running every way. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I'm like, we're just going to stay on the porch for a minute. I'm hoping they're like going out the back door. And I didn't even tell the parents. I didn't even know. I didn't even know what to do at that point. I was like, do I rat them out? Do I not rat them out? I don't really know what to do. So I just left it with that. But I've had some crazy stories with people in the houses when we're supposed to be showing them.
I would say so. You probably go into houses now and like, is anyone home? Like, are we safe?
I do a knock and I do a double doorbell ring before I enter now.
How we find the systems that we have in real estate. Oh man. All right. So you wear a lot of hats, Ashley. I know you and Jeff own, I really don't know how many or anything like that, but I know you own a number of businesses, right? You're not the average person. There is a person that's busy, and then there's a person that if you wrote their life down on paper, there's just not much downtime, right? And so I think about you and your involvement in the community and the businesses that you and Jeff own, and I say, hey, she probably has to be as intentional as anybody out there because you're also a good mama, three daughters, right? Like,
oh yeah, I didn't even say that earlier, but those are my 3 girls and my husband in the picture behind me. If y'all can see that, I'm assuming you can see that. 3
daughters, they look like they're all maybe like 10 and under.
They're 10, 8, and 6.
Let's go. See, if I don't make it in real estate, maybe I can go to the carnival at this point. But as a dad, as a husband, and owning a couple of businesses, the thing that I find myself having to do is staying present where I am as much as possible, really staying emotionally neutral. For me, that's not, you don't see me walking around with a big smile on my face all the time. And I realize that that's not the best thing, but also I don't dip too low. I don't go too high because I feel like that sweet spot's where you need to be. But with all the things that you have going on in life, Ashley, for you, how many hours do you put in? How many hours do you think a full-time agent should put in? And especially with what you have going on, what are the most impactful things they can do with their time?
So my time that I have sold real estate has really varied since I started in 2005. And I would say in 2005, I was working probably 80 hours a week as a single woman. And I mean, I probably did 90 some days. I mean, some weeks, it just depended. I mean, I loved the deal. I was a deal junkie. If it was an opportunity, I was chasing it. Which is, I think, probably how I got my name out there like I did. I mean, if I was in a bar at 10 o'clock at night, I was passing out real estate cards to people I didn't even know. So that has changed, obviously, as I've transitioned. I've learned quite a few things in my time. One, that there typically is never any real estate emergency that has to be fixed at that moment. Like, that's a hard thing I think my husband taught me. He's like, Ashley, is the outcome going to change between 9 o'clock tonight and 9 a.m.? Because you can deal with this at 9 a.m. if the outcome's not going to change. But I'm a fixer. So I was always under the impression I need to fix it right now. I need to make these people feel better right now. So if that's one piece of advice I could give people, there is no real estate emergency. Yes, we feel like it is emergency. And yes, we want to fix it immediately. However, we also have to respect our own time. And it took me probably 10 years in the business to finally say, I'm not taking a phone call. Like today, I don't take a phone call between 3 and 7:30. That's my time. I pick up my kids from school. I run them to different activities. And if you need me between 3 and 7:30, you're going to get a call back around 8. If it's an emergency or if it's something I need to deal with, or I know is on my plate. But from 8, when I drop them off till 3, I'm going hard. And I'm getting everything I can get done so that I can take 3 to 7:30, which I would have never done 10 years ago. So I don't know that I can say that there's a set time for a full-time agent. And the reason why I say that is there are days I'll work till 1 or 2 in the morning just to get it all done, to prep for the next day, so that depending on what my schedule is like the next day, I'm not a mess.
Right.
So I would say even taking that time in the middle of the day, I'm probably working 50 hours a week, because if somebody calls, I'm going to answer. If it's between the hours, I'm going to answer. So I don't know if I'd say there's a set time, because some weeks I'm working 20 or 30 hours a week, but on the average week, it's probably 40 plus.
The coolest thing about what you said, Ashley, is that you and William have a lot of similar trends in your message. What he said was in the early life of your business, you got to get after it. And then you said, hey, in the early life of my business, my life circumstances were a little different then, but I was getting after it because I was getting my name out there. I think that's a critical step that new agents miss. And I might not make any friends here by saying this, but it's always been my philosophy that at the beginning of your real estate business, overtime is what's needed. Overtime. Otherwise, the people that are solid working full time, they can almost outrank what you're doing if you're not making an overtime effort because they have that reputation that you don't have yet. So, 80 hours a week, I guess I'm kind of cut from that similar cloth too. But again, I love hearing you say there is no real estate emergency. I baptized myself in fire to prove it, and it wasn't easy, but now I live the quality of life I live because I created this boundary. And a call at 8 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock feels different. It's not that different. You're not calling them back 8 days later. You're calling them back after you got out of an appointment. That appointment might have just been with your family. So I love that you have that part every day. I hope any dad or mom that watches this understands that it's possible to smash it. You can be a top 15, top 10 agent at Hometown Realty and still be dedicated to your family. That in itself is strong. Well, y'all have been amazing. We're right at 35 minutes is typically what we try to do. Any last words, any advice, Ashley, before we bust a move out of here?
I got two things. One, I know people believe in technology and I believe in it too, but I keep a hard copy day planner with me. And I take notes and I update it every night on what I need to do. I rank my items A, B, C, or D. And when I take my first hour of my day, I do everything I can do in under 5 minutes, because then you feel like you've accomplished half a day in 5 minutes. So that's my number one thing, is prepare for the next day. Because if you're not preparing for tomorrow today, then you're already behind when you wake up. And then my second thing is, and now I've lived by this and I will continue to live by this, is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So it really doesn't matter if I'm the most knowledgeable agent, if I'm the one that has the heart that's going to take care of them and lead them through this process and make it as seamless as I can. And it's not just about a paycheck for me. And they can tell that when they meet with me, then I can be there forever. I don't have to just make one sale and be done, because they're going to have that comfort level with me and they're going to know, hey, I can ask her anything because she's genuinely invested in me.
Absolutely. Ashley sells real estate, but what she really does is she takes care of us and she's there when we need her. We might call her for a sitter. We might call her for a recommendation to go out to a nice place to eat. We might call her about a development that we saw because we felt like she'd be in the know, but none of those have anything to do with a quick paycheck. I do the same thing. I try to prep for the next day before I leave the office, because I don't want to wake up in reactive mode. So if you prep for tomorrow today, you have made yourself proactive. One thing I don't do though is, you said everything you can do possible from your list in under 5 minutes, so that you start the day with a feeling of progress, like a feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that before. I think that's really strong.
Yeah. I mean, if it's writing my notes in 2 minutes, if I got 3 notes to write, okay, I'm writing them, getting them out. I'm making a phone call. I'm sending 2 emails to clients that I'm following up with. Anything I can do, if it's under a 5-minute task, I just check. And I probably get 2/3 of my list done.
I love it.
5 minutes or
Intentionality.
less.
But punch it in the face, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, y'all have been absolutely amazing. I don't know that this could have gone any better. And I, regardless of when an agent sees this, there are probably 6 or 8 gold nuggets in here that will definitely help them. So again, I know both of y'all are busy. I know you both have a bunch of stuff going on in life, right? Especially you right now, William. William will right now, based on what he told me earlier, he's going to be a daddy next week. So it's a wild ride for both of y'all. I'm really, really glad that y'all were the 2 that were on here together. Thank you both.
Good luck to you, William. Thanks, Larry.